feel that, Jason?
It's coming.
Can you feel it? Football is in the air, and we are discussing college football right now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline with Northern Illinois play-by-play man Bill Baker. Somewhere in the middle of the BYU season, the Huskies will visit Provo, Utah. BYU will return that game later on. Bill, welcome to BYU Sports Nation.
Hey, Spencer, thanks so much. Good to be here.
According to Las Vegas Superbook, Bill, Northern Illinois has the best odds to win the MAC. And honestly speaking, Bill, this team scares the heck out of me coming to Provo because I think that they are largely undervalued and largely underrated basically on an annual basis. Now, we'll get into more of that, but are the expectations for NIU within the community in Illinois to win the conference this season?
Well, let me go back to your comment about Las Vegas. First of all, they also had the New England Patriots winning the Super Bowl. So, I mean, right there, you know, there's a credibility question in that thing. And yeah, you know, guys, here's the thing. We're talking about a game that's going to take place on October the 27th. You know, to say that the community and you know, the Northern Illinois area is excited would be an understatement. Certainly, this is a kind of a feather with the cap game. This is what we call the boneyard game. You beat an FBS opponent, either from a major conference, in your case, a major independent, and you go bury something in the boneyard from that game. They did it last year against Nebraska, but yeah, there's so much that has to happen between now and then. I mean, you haven't even begun fall camp yet. A lot of people don't realize the comings and goings in the program, yours and ours, you know, over the span of what's a very long spring and summer. And then you're going to have, what is it, 8 games maybe before we actually get together, 7 or 8 games. And a lot can happen in their personnel-wise. But yeah, it's a game that I think everybody is certainly looking forward to.
Bill, we spend so much time talking about how difficult BYU's schedule is, especially to start the season against the P5 teams. Northern Illinois is playing a very difficult schedule as well. At Iowa versus Utah, at BYU, at Florida State. Why the emphasis on bolstering the non-conference schedule?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, we had a brand new athletic director. He's not new anymore. He's been here 5 years. Who came in, and one of the first things I think a lot of the fandom around the Northern Illinois area did was kind of jump at him and say, hey, we want to see somebody other than, and this is to take nothing away from any of the schools I named, but other than a Murray State, other than a Liberty University or and a couple of others that come in on the non-conference schedule. They want to see some of these major clubs in it. And he set things in motion about 5 years ago. They called it Schedule Palooza, and BYU and then your not so friendly buddies up the road, Utah, and they answered the call, in San Diego State and South Florida, Vanderbilt. These are clubs in Maryland. These are clubs that he's worked home and home agreements with, and you know, the schedule has turned, and now it's going to be Utah and BYU in the same year. We've got the Utah, I think, in game number 2, but. Here's the deal. This schedule wasn't supposed to be that difficult. We had either an FCS or another FBS lined up in there, and it's been well documented, you know, about the state of Illinois and the funding problems. And to make a long story short, FSU offered $1.6 million to come down and play them. So, yeah, you adjusted your schedule. I think we traded them for Idaho, so go figure. And you're going to go into Tallahassee. It's going to give you 3 out of your 4 non-conference games. But and those are 1.6 million pretty good reasons why you're going to go ahead and play the game.
Yeah, we know all about that.
The schedule wasn't supposed to be this difficult, but that's the way it turned out.
Yeah, and just imagine getting a win in that scenario. You get paid $1.6 million, and you pull off an upset. That makes it, you know, an unforgettable experience. Bill Baker, the Northern Illinois play-by-play man, with us on BYU Sports Nation. What's the overall idea and, I guess, reception of BYU football within the Northern Illinois football community based on the Cougars going 4-9 last season?
Okay, well, first of all, you guys, like I said before, we play you a little bit further into the schedule than we do most non-conference opponents. So I haven't had a chance to really check it and look and see a lot of what's gone on with BYU. And I don't know how much the fandom has, but I can tell you this. 2 years ago, you guys had Toledo out your way. I think you go back to Toledo. Is it this year or next year?
Next season,
maybe.
Yeah.
Next season, yeah. And that was a shootout. And it has been, over the past decade, it's been NIU and Toledo for the top spot of the Mid-American Western Division. Western Michigan kind of stuck in there for 1 year with their Cotton Bowl year and had a tremendous season under P.J. Fleck, who was rewarded when Minnesota's their head coach. And he's a former Husky receiver nonetheless. So, the ties are tight around the Mid-American Conference. We know what kind of a program Toledo has, and we saw the shootout that, you guys had with them. Last year, the closest thing you got to the MAC was a former MAC member. I think it was your final game of the year. You went and lost it at UMass. And they've been out of the league maybe 4 years now, if I'm not mistaken. But I did get a chance to look at some of the numbers, and I did notice that all four of the people that took a snap at quarterback were underclassmen for you guys last year. Your top three running backs were underclassmen. Your top 3-4 receivers were underclassmen. By that, I mean, last year there were freshmen and sophomores and a couple of juniors sprinkled in there. So youth is the reason. Youth, I think, and some inexperience, why the Cougars finished the way they did. And I think that was an aberration, quite honestly. I don't think you're going to see that going forward. Sometimes you just have to rebuild, and sometimes you have to reload, and you get caught between a rock and a hard place. And I think that's what happened to BYU.
It's interesting. Last year was an injury-plagued season at quarterback. It looks like that's been solidified with Childers. The defense brings back almost everybody from a dominant defense last season. We talked earlier about expectations. With all of those pieces coming back, and I realize you still have to go through fall camp and in several games, but is this a team that expects to win every game they play, regardless of where they're playing, including playing at Provo and all these plays? Is this a team that's walking into this season confident, expecting to win no matter where they are?
Some of that is bravado, guys, but yeah, I think any football team in the country is going to tell you, yeah, we expect to win anytime we go out there. Now, how much of that actually transpires with, we expected to win at Nebraska last year and did. I mean, quite honestly, came in there with a record of 1-1 and beat the Cornhuskers. Were they the Nebraska of old? Not really, but you go and you win in front of 90-some thousand fans in their house, and that's a boneyard win, without a doubt. So, yeah, they expect to win. They certainly want to win every game that you play, and with desire, certainly you've got to have a pretty good degree of expectation to go along with that, and then it's all rooted in confidence. I mean, bottom line is you got to feel confident what you're doing, what you're able to do offensively, defensively, in special teams. Experience are a lot of different spokes in the wheel of success, and those are two of them. But expectation certainly has to be right there.
Bill, it's great to talk to you. We appreciate the insight into Northern Illinois football, and we figure that the Huskies will be right there again competing for a MAC title. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, guys. Best of luck to you until we show up in town. How's that?
Sounds good. We'll see you in October.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Bill Baker on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future. I really think that this team, if they don't win the MAC, they'll be right there. And if Toledo didn't scare BYU fans a couple of years ago, then I don't know what's going to wake you up to the top-level teams in the MAC. Like, they can play. Blaine Fowler said it really well yesterday. If you compare this team to Cal, because we're looking at tough home games, they're not going to have the speed and the overall talent that Cal has, but they have such great coaches. The program overall is so well run that they can execute you to the point where they just overwhelm you. I mean, they just wear you down because they're so consistent. They don't make a ton of mistakes. They're well coached. This team frightens me a little bit because they're well prepared.
Yes, they're very good, and especially after last year, BYU is not going to overlook anybody. It doesn't matter who it is, not going to overlook anybody.